Now, just to be clear, you didn't do it.
We know who did it, Steve. We know. And we know who spearheaded this cover-up. You all know.
Yes, we do.
If John was beaten up and attacked in that house, who did it?
We don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know. And it's not for us to know. Somebody other than Karen is responsible for that, for the killing of John.
You are listening to the Roberta Glass True Crime Report, putting the true back in true crime. From New York City, Roberta Glass is now on the record.
Okay. Here we go. Happy Friday, everybody. Hello, Barb. Hello, Wesley. Loves Octoberfest. Hello, Dark Side of the Moon. Hello, Blue River. Hello, Tammy and Gizzy. Hello, Kath. All right. So what I want to talk about today is the fact that there are fantasy narratives being created from people's imaginations on both sides of the Karen Read case, and never is there a better example of that than this anonymous lawyer blog who came out with a blog about Karen Read's motivations. And boy, does it take some giant leaps in logic. I'm going to go over what I can today. This may be a two-parter. Let's see how we do. But I want to start off with Innocence Fraud Watch, her excellent blog on just the beginning of it. But I have a lot to say about the end of Anonymous Lawyer's blog. So let's see what we get through. This is more of the kind of groupthink that is on this side of the fence. And I think that on this side of the fence, because the media has paired with, by and large, most of the media has, by and large, supported psychopathic murderer Karen Read and pushed out her innocence fraud campaign and her innocence fraud narrative into the public domain. I think that this side, anyone who says Karen Read is guilty, for whatever reason, whether it's, I can't believe how many people are believing this Bella's mom thing, that she did it because of Bella's mom. Yeah, she overheard. There's no evidence that she overheard anything. It's actually maybe the one thing I agree with Alan Jackson and his argument, that she overheard this Bella's mom and that she would reverse. I mean, this is continuing the idea that she's so jealous. And I don't think Karen Read is jealous. And if you look at other cases, DV cases, you can see women using exactly the same technique of accusing the partner that they're abusing of having affairs, sleeping with other women. I mean, clearly, Karen Read, week after Aruba, she was writing Brian Higgins. So it's not just Brian Higgins that makes me think she's not jealous. It's just a pattern of keeping John O'Keefe on the back foot in a submissive position to keep power and control over him. The same reason that she required him, demanded of him that John send Karen pictures, text Karen pictures of where he was, who he was with, and what he was doing. So when he was with Brendan Caney, they took a picture together because he had to prove to Karen who he was with and what he was doing. And you can see in the last day of his life, he's doing that with his father. He's sending Karen a picture of his father on his couch to prove that what he's saying is true. So, I mean, she was keeping absolute, total surveillance over her victim. But, I mean, this Bella's mom thing, I guess anonymous lawyers going to the Bella's mom thing, he or she, I'm not sure if it's a he or she, they are anonymous, is saying that she did it by accident, that she didn't know what she hit that night. I mean, it's so far out there, the kind of motivations that they're. So I think for this side, just hearing that Karen Read is guilty is enough, and people will won't question the narrative and won't compare it to the, won't connect it to the evidence. So many of these narratives are just not connected to the evidence in this case and aren't the real narratives. And I think that people can feel that there's something, there would be something very odd if Karen Read and John O'Keefe had a good relationship that was just breaking up, and that Karen Read just got too drunk and accidentally reversed into him. I mean, none of the evidence follows that she did it by accident. Certainly, you can look at just the fact that she reversed at such a mass speed. An anonymous lawyer makes some good points regarding the backing up and the speed. How when you back up, you mostly don't put your foot on the gas pedal at all. You just let it, you let it drift back. And you certainly aren't putting your foot 74.5% down, almost at 75% down, meaning 75% to the floor down, and get up to speeds of 24 miles an hour by accident. But, I think what anonymous lawyer is trying to argue is that Karen Read was angry at John O'Keefe that night, extremely rageful, and just accidentally hit him, and then panicked. There's no evidence that she ever panicked or ever had any feelings of panic. And desperately tried to find out what happened to John O'Keefe. She gathered up an audience and led them all right to him. And she knew exactly where. I don't think there's any. Also, they argued that there's memory issues. Oh, my law. It's so much. So let's get into it. Without further ado, I will make my probably more coherent arguments closer to when we actually go through the blog. But this is Innocence Fraud Watch's excellent blog on the first half of Anonymous Lawyers blog on Karen Read's motivation. And she writes, whoever is behind the anonymous lawyer account on X and Substack and posting on the cop killer Karen Read case is intellectually lazy and appears to be yet another manipulative fraudster spreading misinformation and lies. On July 3rd, 2025, the manipulative fraudster behind the anonymous lawyer account on X posted the following, probably my last post, and it's a long one. Innocence Fraud Watch blogged in response to the obvious misinformation anonymous lawyer had published in their piece headed, "Yes, Karen Read did it." And you can read more on the blog. There's a link to this blog in this episode's description. But rather than correct their misinformation, the person behind the anonymous lawyer account chose to continue to spread their misinformation and is still choosing to spread their misinformation to this day. Not only does anonymous lawyer choose to spread misinformation, they are also intellectually lazy, and they appear reluctant to engage in deep thinking and critical analysis, and instead seem to favor word salad arguments, which do not stand up to scrutiny. They also appear to have a penchant for concocting stories based on non-existent evidence, which they fabricated from their imagination. Exactly. So, right. So these ideas just seem to come from anonymous lawyers' imagination, and don't take in the totality of the evidence or the imagination of others. In their latest piece on Substack, which was published on December 8th, 2025, anonymous lawyer chose to use the title Exploring Karen Reed's Frame of Mind and Intentions. But rather than doing a deep and critical exploration of the case in order to help determine Karen Reed's frame of mind and intentions before she intentionally chose to reverse into off-duty Boston police officer John O'Keefe, anonymous lawyer chose a simplistic, quote, black and white, unquote, approach, and omits any evidence which doesn't fit into their existing biased narrative and supposed belief. For example, in the opening paragraph of their post, anonymous lawyer disingenuously states, "I've previously explained exhaustively and comprehensively why the totality of the evidence overwhelmingly establishes that Karen Reed hit John O'Keefe with her SUV, resulting in his eventual death. What I have stopped short of doing up to this point is offering my best guess, informed by all the evidence, as to her state of mind at the time of the accident and in the immediate aftermath, i.e., whether she intended to hit him or knew prior to finding his body that she had done so." Anonymous lawyer has never addressed the totality of the evidence of this case in any of the pieces they've written and published, but notice how they choose to write, what I have stopped short of doing up to this point is offering my best guess informed by all the evidence. This opening statement is dishonest because anonymous lawyer does not consider all the evidence in their latest lengthy piece and instead chooses to cherry pick parts of the evidence and make things up to form their biased and mistaken conclusions. Anonymous lawyer also attempts to reinforce their dishonesty by, again, disingenuously referring to all of the evidence in the second paragraph of their post, claiming, "I felt it was worth countering that fictional account with one that is actually consistent with all of the evidence, even though their own account is not consistent with all of the evidence," as you will see as this blog goes on. So more red flags can be found in anonymous lawyers' third paragraph of their piece, in which they go on to contradict what they wrote in their first two paragraphs on all the evidence. And they instead send mixed messages by stating, "While I'll touch on some of the most relevant evidence and try to show my work as I go, I'm not going to comprehensively analyze all of the evidence here or try to rebut all of the various arguments and claims that have been offered by Reed and her supporters over the year." If you want that level of analysis, I encourage you to read this piece. What anonymous lawyer fails to point out to their readers is the most relevant evidence they refer to is clouded by their confirmation bias, and although they state that they will try to show their work as they go, this is by no means what they have managed to achieve. This piece, which anonymous lawyer points their readers to, is the one headed, "Yes, Karen Reed did it," which still contains uncorrected misinformation. And because they have failed to correct their misinformation, they have created an echo chamber for themselves and others, which has led them to their distorted and incorrect understanding of the basic facts of the case. So much so that they again published the following false and misleading nonsense in their latest December 8th piece as follows. Shortly after talking to Jen McCabe, Karen called John's friend Carrie Roberts. She told Carrie that John was dead, that he may have been hit by a plow. This prompted Carrie to call the police and local hospitals. Karen then got into her SUV in the dark, in the middle of a blizzard, and began driving around looking for John. I would argue that she was driving around pretending to look for John. We don't know. I mean, there was a lot of rumors that maybe there would be missing time. She certainly went towards 34 Fairview. Did she examine her handiwork before picking up Jen McCabe and Carrie Roberts? It's just impossible to know. For the umpteenth time, the evidence from Karen Reed's 2024 and 2025 murder trials is that the earliest Karen said John might have gotten hit by a plow was at some time during her 5:08:06 a.m., to 5:16:14 a.m. call with Carrie Roberts while Karen was behind the wheel of her driving. So this is when Karen Reed, so 5:08 is right after Karen Reed love taps John O'Keefe's car, and we know that their bumper heights are different. And we know that her own ARCA witnesses, her corrupt, lying ARCA witnesses, but in this case, they couldn't even help her out with this. They said that there wasn't enough speed with her love tap to do any damage to her taillight during that. And we didn't see any damage to her taillight during that love tap. But clearly she was trying to create her own tailored evidence, new tailored evidence, so that she could have some kind of event where she could make an excuse as to how she hurt her taillight. Obviously out of John's house and out of earshot of his niece. So she was already driving around when she said, so this was from 5:08 to 5:16 when she said he might have gotten hit by a plow. Was she driving around and did she see a plow? And is that where she got the idea? Did she see a snowplow go by and say, oh, maybe he got hit by a plow? The uncorrected misinformation on the timing of when Karen Reed told Carrie Roberts that John O'Keefe might have gotten hit by a plow has created an echo chamber where individuals like Anonymous Lawyer are seemingly duping people like Carrie Lama, who also appears to hold the false belief that Karen Reed mentioned John being hit by a plow in her 5 o'clock on the dot call to Carrie, which simply did not happen. While ignorantly sitting in her echo chamber, Carrie Lama's false belief of this misinformation makes her more resistant to new, accurate information and more susceptible to believing and sharing false information, as well as making her more vulnerable to future manipulation. Carrie Lama is also a supporter of one of Meredith Kircher's murderers, Amanda Knox. So she's apparently, she communicates with Amanda Knox on Twitter. So she's been fooled by, she's trying to fight one innocence fraud campaign while believing another. The delusion. Okay, so after bizarrely stating, let's start with some facts that are completely undisputed, Anonymous Lawyer goes on to make the following false statements. While at McCarthy's, Karen can be seen on video surveillance footage consuming at least 3 vodka sodas, into each of which she can be seen dumping an additional shot of vodka. She carried a 4th drink with her out the door when she left. This is confirmed by receipts. It's not clear how exactly Anonymous Lawyer came to their above false conclusions because they don't lay out how they reached their calculations. But Karen Reed was not seen on video surveillance footage consuming at least 3 vodka sodas. She was only caught drinking 2 of the 3 vodka soda drinks in the cylinder-style glasses because she took the 3rd glass from McCarthy's to the Waterfall Bar. By 10:09, Karen Reed had consumed 4 units of vodka in McCarthy's before she ordered her third vodka and soda drink, plus an additional shot of vodka. She then received 2 more shots of vodka at 10:34 and 10:41, which she also poured into her third vodka and soda drink. When Karen left McCarthy's, she was caught carrying the glass, which had originally contained her 5th and 6th units of vodka from 10:09, which also now contained her 7th and 8th vodka units. It is not known how much of her 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th vodka units she had consumed before she left McCarthy's, and possibly why in 2023 she told Matt Goodman she had consumed about 4. Hold on 1 second. Okay, hold on. Let's just take a up. Let me just share this. So does everybody remember this interview with Karen Reed?
When you walked out of the bar, how many drinks had you had?
I had probably about 4.
The Commonwealth says that you had 9 drinks that night. That's what the prosecution says.
I don't believe they're saying I wasn't in my right mind.
Karen Reed always right, like
Again.
one step ahead with that. I may have had 9 drinks, but they're not saying I wasn't in my right mind. They weren't saying I wasn't that drunk. She knows that the alcohol barely touches the sides with her. So she's going to capitalize on that. Nobody said who was with her drinking said that she appeared that drunk. Nobody the next morning, including cops who were trained to look for it, said she appeared drunk. As Brendan Kane says, she's a pro drinker. He watched her drink all day and into the night, and he said you just couldn't tell. Below are some timeline extracts that show Karen Reed was also not seen dumping an additional shot of vodka into her first vodka and soda drink from 9:10, which anonymous lawyer falsely claims she did. Okay. So Karen Reed at 9:03 enters C.F. McCarthy's pub. Karen Reed receives her first vodka and soda drink. Everybody still with me? Hey, Wesley loves Octoberfest. Is Wesley loves Octoberfest holding up all the super chats for everybody? Thank you so much, Wesley. I appreciate it. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate. Hope you're well. Okay, everybody's still with me? Yeah, I agree with you, Dark Side. She's a functional. Yeah. Karen Reed received her second vodka and soda drink. Karen Reed at 9:27. I mean, the fact that Innocence Fraud Watch has painstakingly nailed this down just is kind of a lot of hard work behind this. 9:32, third vodka unit. Karen Reed received a shot of vodka, which she poured into her second glass of vodka and soda drink. Karen Reed received her second vodka shot at 5:45 p.m. At 10:09, fifth and sixth vodka unit. Karen Reed received her third vodka and soda drink, plus a third shot of vodka, which she poured into her third glass. And at 10:34, her seventh vodka unit. And at 10:41, her eighth vodka unit. Karen Reed receives her fifth shot of vodka, which she again poured into her third glass. And at 10:45, Karen Reed was caught on surveillance camera behaving aggressively towards John. Hold on 1 second. I'll show it to you. Okay, here we go. No sound in this, but look how in his face she is. Does anybody read lips? So, one more time. For those of you watching or listening on podcast, it's Karen Reed, very much up close, very aggressively talking to John O'Keefe as he has his body a little bit turned away from her. Drinking his beer. At 10:52, John O'Keefe and Karen Reed left McCarthy's. Karen Reed took her third glass of vodka and soda drink with her, which contained the possible remnants of her fifth, sixth, and seventh vodka units, plus the eighth vodka she received at 10:41. John O'Keefe and Karen Reed entered the Waterfall Bar and Grill at 10:54 p.m. Karen had her third glass vodka and soda drink with her, which contained the possible remnants of her fifth, sixth, and seventh vodka units, plus the eighth vodka unit she received at 10:41, and time unknown, ninth vodka unit. At 11:29:12, Karen Reed was caught on surveillance camera drinking her fourth vodka and soda drink while standing next to Brian Higgins. And at 11:39:50, Karen Reed was caught on surveillance camera consuming her fourth vodka and soda drink. So, hold on one second. Okay.
Watch what apples do to our
Oh,
bodies.
I'm sorry
Trail
about the
mix.
ads.
First ingredient,
Hold on one
peanuts.
second.
One of the
Whoop.
worst. It's not a nut at all.
Cut your cable and streaming bills to zero without changing how you watch TV.
Netflix and Apple pray.
If I could ask you to go 11:39 in 40 seconds. Pause there, thank you. And in about 5 to 10 seconds or so, I'm going to ask, basically I'm going to do a pause it, and I'm just going to ask Sergeant if you could direct your attention to sort of the top right corner of the screen. Thank you so much. Pause there. From that portion of the video, you observed the defendant in that portion of the video?
Yes, I did.
And what, if anything, did you observe her to be doing?
She retrieves a drink from the table and appears to consume it.
Now, as far as the drink and the tall cylindrical glass that you observed her walking out of C.F. McCarthy's with, what, if anything, do you observe from the glass that she's taking a sip of from this portion of the video of the waterfall?
It's a shorter, fatter style glass compared to the cylindrical tall style that she walked out of C.F. McCarthy's with.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. Let me stop this before it. One second. Okay, back to the blog. I mean, this is like extremely involved. All this. So at 11:46:20, Karen Reed consumed a Fireball whiskey shot. So Here we go. So you can see everybody, for those listening on podcast, everybody's doing a shot. And you can see Karen Reed doing a shot with them. And at 11:57, John O'Keefe ordered Karen Reed her 5th vodka and soda drink. Let's see. Hold on one second. I'm just going to pull it up in a hot minute. Thanks for your patience. Does everybody see where Karen Reed is? Right there. Whoop, right there. Okay, so then you see John O'Keefe paying for the drinks.
Work here is done. It is funny.
Okay, and at 11:58, John O'Keefe was captured drinking his last beer. Okay, here we go. Okay.
When he said, "You've let yourself go," I cried.
Okay. Let's see. All right, here we go. 12:10, Karen Reed was caught on surveillance camera leaving the waterfall with Jennifer McCabe and Karina Kolakithis, that snake in the grass. And at 12:11, John O'Keefe exited the waterfall bar holding Karen Reed's 5th vodka and soda drink, which would have been her 11th unit of vodka. And at 11:24:38, Karen Reed's car came to a complete stop near the flagpole outside of 34 Fairview. So let me just see if I can show you some of this. So here's John leaving the waterfall.
Forward to about 12:11. Essentially, what I'm going to ask Ms. Gilman is if you could play this from 12:11 and 0 to 12:11 and 25 seconds. But I'm sorry, first, if I could ask you to just pause it for 1 second. And I know it's an awful time to pause it, but before the flag blew in front of the camera, do you recognize what's depicted up there?
Can you repeat the question,
What's
please?
in this video generally without what's blocking the camera right now? Do you recognize what?
It's the exit.
So that's the exit to the waterfall?
Correct.
Thank you. Ms. Gilman, if you could. If you could pause right there. Individual sort of down towards the bottom of the frame, do you recognize who that is?
It's Karen and John.
So that would be the point in time where you say they sort of link up at the front door and then walk towards Washington Street?
That's correct.
And if you could, just with reference to the screen that we're looking up here in Exhibit 53, where is Washington Street? You had parked and where you observed Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed walking to?
So, okay. Trying to think of the buildings. That's the back parking lot where where you see the cars, and you have to take a left.
So directly in front of where Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed are standing is the back parking lot, and then to the left is Washington Street?
Yeah, I think you have to walk that way.
Okay.
And then you'll hit Washington Street.
Ms. Gilman, if you could just play through 25 seconds. You could pause there. Do you see an individual in the parking lot area?
I do.
And do you recognize who that person is?
I believe it's Jennifer,
By that you mean, I'm sorry, Ms. McCabe?
Miss McCabe.
And Ms. Gilman, if you could, the last one. Thank you.
Okay. And then here's the 3 women leaving the bar that night. I mean, it's just so hard to look at these surveillance videos of John O'Keefe. You just want to get a time machine and go back and tell him not to go with Karen.
As far as the people in the video, do you recognize anybody in the video?
It's really hard to see, but it's you want me to point?
If you recognize anyone, I would ask you to draw the jury's attention to
So-
that person and explain who that is.
Oh, sorry. That, I believe, is my husband with that.
Thank you, Tammy. Thank you, Tammy and Giz, for the super sticker. I appreciate it.
Maybe, I'm not sure.
So if you don't know, or if you can't tell, or you don't know the people,
I'm not sure.
okay.
It's hard to tell.
Now, Mrs. O'Keefe, it's just from up on this video, you recognize sort of the table that you were at or around on the evening of January
Yes,
28th?
the high topped, yep.
Okay. And if you could just direct the jury's attention to, generally speaking, which side of the table that you spent your time talking to Ms. McCabe and the defense?
So, like, if we're pointing to here, I'd be on that side, like the left side of the table, if you want to call it the left side.
And the area where the band was, if you could.
The band is here, like, that's what I meant, the left, yeah, on the front.
And if you know the front door area, sort of where is that located?
So, it's like right there.
And Ms. Gilman, if you could just run this video from 10:59 to 11 p.m.
I'm just looking at this going, how did Karen Reed convince anyone that the play fighting that was like some kind of prelude to a murder? I mean, it's so ridiculous. Her defense was, they never put out a cohesive theory, and they still don't, of what actually happened to John O'Keefe that can incorporate all the evidence. Just like the new refrain from the Free Karen readers is, he wasn't hit by a car. It was proved in 2 trials. She won 2 trials. She had 2 trials. The first was a draw, so that doesn't count. She didn't win that trial. The Free Karen readers think she won the first mistrial. And the second trial, they had the biggest innocence fraudsters on that jury. I mean, that was the worst jury picking. I thought we couldn't get worse than Ronnie, the EMT, but apparently you can.
Thank you. Ms. Gilman, if you could take that down, and with the court's permission, I would ask for, from the same channel 3, the 6th video. And Ms. Gilman, if I could direct you to 12:09 and 50 seconds. Again, Mrs. Schoeneman-Dilley, you recognize what's up on the screen as just later on in the evening at the waterfall, is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
And is this towards the end of the evening?
Yes, it is.
And fair to say that the lights have been turned up, so it's a little easier
So now
to see
I can recognize a few more people.
And so from what you can see.
This is Snake in the Grass, Karina Kolakithis, who was friends with both John O'Keefe and Karen Reed, and sided with Karen Reed, testified in the second trial that there was something like sinister about the way Jen McCabe said, "You're coming with me to my house," to Karen Reed.
See up on the screen now, if you could, using that laser pointer, just direct the jury's attention to anybody that you recognize.
Oh.
She's married to a lawyer who also testified in the first trial. There's some of my least favorite characters in this story.
Okay, so that's me right there. And then my husband is right there, Nicholas. And I don't know if that's
right. Nicholas, I forgot his first name. Nicholas Kolakithis, the lawyer. They're just on the free Karen Reed gravy train, shaking Aidan Carney's hand.
Matt, Jen, I don't know.
At the trials, what I meant.
And I can't tell because of the barcode up there.
With the date and time
But
stamp.
yeah, I can't see who that is.
And Ms. Gilman, if you could play it from this.
Oh, I see John too.
Okay.
Sorry.
Sure, please go ahead.
And I see John. John's right there.
Thank you.
I see the dead police officer that I'm betraying by hopping on his murderer's innocence fraud campaign. I mean, she did everything she could in both trials to help Karen Reed.
Ms. Gilman, if you could play it from this point till 12:11 and 4 seconds.
So this is before they sort of had their arms around. Did you guys see that? They just kind of had their arms around each other. Karen, Karina, and Jen McCabe. Looks like saying goodbye. See, I mean, Karina Kolakithis really thinks that was the beginning of a sinister plot by Jen McCabe. So now they're walking out the door.
Right there. Now, as far as
Karen.
this for the record, we're at 12:10 and 38.
Karina.
See sort of 3 individuals going towards the front entrance.
Yes.
So you just have to say.
Yes.
And with respect, with that laser pointer, if you could just identify for the jury who, if anyone, you recognize from that.
I love that. Who, if any? That's his favorite. Who, what, if any? Who, if any? You know, Adam Lally, I had to take another unpopular position that I think he was the best prosecutor between him and I think he did a better job than Hank Brennan. He brought out more of the evidence and combated Karen Reed's innocence fraud narrative much more effectively than Hank Brennan.
Okay, so that's Jennifer McCabe, that's me, and that's Karen.
So you're walking sort of towards the exit at the same time, correct?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if you could.
Talk about a long goodbye. I guess it takes a while to get everybody.
You can pause that, Ms. Quint. Now there's another individual sort of making their way to the doorway. Do you recognize that person?
Yes, that's John.
That's John O'Keefe.
John O'Keefe, yes.
Exiting from the water.
Correct.
Ms. Gilman, if you could just play the last 2 seconds. Okay.
There you go. There you go. Okay, the receipts referred to by anonymous lawyer have never been published. Therefore, they are being dishonest when they write she carried a 4th drink with her out the door when she left. This is confirmed by receipts as well. Again, this was Karen Reed's 3rd vodka and soda drink, not her 4th, which contained the possible remnants of her 5th, 6th, and 7th vodka units, plus the 8th vodka unit she received at 10:41. And receipts don't confirm what drink Karen Reed carried out of C.F. McCarthy's pub, and it's ludicrous to suggest they do. In reality, it is still not known to the public or anonymous lawyer what the 25280 receipts from McCarthy's set out. And they go on to state, at around 11 p.m., John and Karen walked across the street to the Waterfall Bar and Grill, where they met up with various people, including 5 of the witnesses she's now suing, Jen and Matt McCabe, Brian and Nicole Albert, and Brian Higgins. Over the next hour, Karen had at least 1 to 2 additional vodka drinks. So during that 3-hour span, Karen had at minimum the equivalent of 7 to 9 drinks, which explains why her blood test taken the next morning showed that she was still above the legal limit of 0.08. In reality, John O'Keefe and Karen Reed were already in the Waterfall Bar and Grill by 10:54:32. An anonymous lawyer lies when they state over the next hour Karen had at least 1 to 2 additional vodka drinks. Karen first consumed whatever vodka units were left in her 3rd vodka and soda drink in the tall cylinder-style glass, which she took from McCarthy's and which could have contained a maximum of 4 vodka units. She also consumed a 4th vodka and soda drink, which was served in a shorter, fatter style glass to the one from McCarthy's, which she was also caught drinking on surveillance camera at around 11:39:50. And there was also the unit of whiskey, the Fireball shot she consumed at around 11:46, purchased by Chris Albert, which was again caught on surveillance camera. It's therefore possible Karen Reed consumed an equal amount of alcohol across the 2 bars. At least 5, count them, 5 vodka units while in McCarthy's, followed by 4 vodka units in the Waterfall, plus the single 1 unit of whiskey, the Fireball shot, equaling a total of 10 units of alcohol, not the equivalent of 7 to 9 drinks referred to by anonymous lawyer. And then they go on to write, while Karen was, by all accounts, an experienced drinker, and there was no indication that she was falling over drunk that night, it cannot reasonably be disputed that she was very intoxicated by the time she left the Waterfall just after midnight. This is further confirmed by Karen's own statement to various witnesses the next morning, in which she admitted that she still felt intoxicated and didn't have a clear memory of what happened that night before. Has anonymous lawyer ever heard of an unreliable narrator? Because he's taking Karen Reed's words for gospel, and she's a pathological liar, manipulator, fabricator, clever psychopath, inventor of innocence fraud narratives. I mean, what a better way to say, like, I don't know what happened. I just killed my boyfriend, but I have no memory of it. I must have done it in a blackout. I mean, speaking of, I know that, statement analysis, you can take it or leave it, but when anybody starts to make claims of that they don't remember things, like they're in some kind of a blackout in relation to a very important piece of time, it should be highly suspicious. Even if you are missing pieces of memory, you still have little pieces of clear memory in there. So I believe Karen Reed remembers everything that happened. And you know how we know that? Is because she took Jen McCabe and Carrie Roberts right to the scene of her murder. No one else saw John O'Keefe covered in snow, but Karen Reed's kicking at the door saying, "Let me the F out." She didn't want to. Carrie Roberts insisted on looking in the home. If he was really lost, Karen Reed would have looked for him. She did no looking right where she was in his own home. And the fact that Karen Reed invaded his home uninvited, unwanted, after she murdered John O'Keefe is a special kind of insult and violation of his space. I mean, she just violated his space. I mean, she did that quite often. She violated his boundaries. She violated his space. She's going to go to his house to think of ways to cover up her murder of him. I mean, what a piece of work. It is not known at what time exactly Karen Reed fully consumed the drink she carried into the Waterfall bar, but if, for example, she didn't finish this drink containing her possible 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th vodka unit until just before receiving her 4th vodka and soda drink, or meaning her 9th vodka unit at sometime around 11:15 to 11:30, then it's possible her blood alcohol concentration would not have reached its peak until around 30 to 90 minutes after consumption, which would have been somewhere around 11:45 to 12:45 to 12 to 1 a.m. But the latter two drinks she consumed at around 11:39, possibly later, and 11:46 would likely not have taken effect until quite some time after she left the waterfall, which she did at around 12:10 a.m. Therefore, while Karen Reed was no doubt intoxicated by the time she left the waterfall, again, it's possible she did not feel the effects of those last few units of alcohol until she became an intruder inside John O'Keefe's home at around 12:43 a.m. And who are those various witnesses from the next morning in which she admitted that she still felt intoxicated and didn't have a clear memory of what happened the night before, referred to by the author, anonymous lawyer? Carrie Roberts was the only witness who testified that Karen Reed said she allegedly didn't remember anything from last night, and apparently said that she drank so much, "I don't remember anything." Bella's mom's house nonsense. Oh, my Lord. Please save me from this Bella's mom's nonsense. Shortly after leaving the waterfall, come on, guys, she did it. She got so angry over Bella's mom that she reversed into him. She was so angry just at the mention of Bella's mom's name, Ashley, that she just the name Ashley made her reverse. Shortly after leaving the waterfall, John and Karen realized that they didn't know how to get to the Albert home, neither of them having ever been there before. Based on testimony and phone records, we know that at this point, John called his friend Jen McCabe to get directions. When she didn't answer the call, Jen was in her car with her husband, Matt, also on the way to the Albert house. Based on the testimony of both Jen and Matt McCabe, and corroborated by Karen's own statements and various interviews, we know that Jen told John on speaker that the Albert house was just up the street from Bella's mom's house, a reference to a woman John had dated prior to Karen. Well, Jennifer McCabe had John O'Keefe on speaker when she talked to him while in her car, meaning her husband, Matt McCabe, could also hear John. There was no firm evidence to support Karen having overheard the McCabes refer to Bella's mom's house to John. Although John's phone had paired to Karen's car's Bluetooth, this does not mean John's calls and messages would have been routed through Karen's car speaker. Therefore, at the moment, Karen Reed overhearing the McCabes refer to Bella's mom's house is nothing more than speculation at best. As again, there is no firm evidence to support this theory. Listen to Alan Jackson and read the blog below. So I'm just going to play Alan Jackson. Let me see. I think I might have it up in a better form. Yeah, here. So let's listen to the criminal lawyer himself, Alan Jackson.
And Your Honor, if I could I finish that last point that I was about to make just before we broke?
30 seconds, Mr.
It'll
Jackson.
take me 30 seconds. I want the court to be super, super clear about this one point. What Mr. Brennan referenced, and I understand why he would reference it in the transcript of the Gretchen Voss interview, and it talked about Ashley's home or Ashley's house. It talked about Ashley's home or Ashley's house. That she was Jennifer McCabe on the 28th calling John to say 34 Fairview is down the street from Ashley's house. My client was not part of that conversation. That was between Jen McCabe, as she testified, and John.
Okay.
Then the next day is when the conversation, according to Jen, took place about Ashley and could it have been some sort of an interaction or an affair or something like that. And Your Honor, if I could I finish that last point that I was about to make just before we broke?
30 seconds, Mr. Jackson.
It'll take me 30 seconds.
Okay, so it wasn't from that day. I happened to find Alan Jackson very persuasive on it. Could be, we don't know. Could have overheard it, we don't know. But to play an interview with Karen Reed saying that she was familiar with this evidence or familiar that Jen McCabe thought this does not make it so. Karen Reed got a hold of a lot of the grand jury testimony, it seems, and really studies her opponent, which is something that this side could benefit from a lot. This side, these witnesses tend to just ignore Karen Reed, ignore her innocence fraud campaign. They don't listen to Aidan Carney. They don't listen to the YouTubers. They don't go look at the own weaknesses in their own testimony or even have a idea of the kind of, we all have character weaknesses. We are not perfect. We are very mortal people. And what innocence fraud campaigns do so well is take advantage of human frailties, human weaknesses. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. Aidan Carney was trying to tell some of these witnesses how they're coming off, how their behavior is being perceived, and they weren't listening. It's a really good idea to listen to how you're being perceived by your enemies and really know your opponent, know what you're facing. I mean, Karen Reed has taken her case like more than a full-time job, and it has benefited her so much because without an innocence fraud campaign, I think we can all agree that Karen Reed would be convicted and doing quite, depending on the judge and et cetera, but probably doing some decent time in prison over this case. But with the innocence fraud campaign, she gets a slap on the wrist. I mean, so, there is no guarantee just because the facts are with you, or it looks like an overwhelming case. Every innocence fraud case that I talk about, every big pushed innocence fraud case in the public domain is equally as ridiculous as Karen Reed, if not more so. Some of them are more ridiculous, like Purvis Payne comes to mind. So the fact that the evidence is overwhelming is no guarantee that you're going to get justice for the victim in any case. What innocence fraud does so well is turn everything up on his head so that the victimizer is now the victim and the victim is totally ghosted and forgotten. Also, according to Lindsay Jo Higgins, she claims she dated John O'Keefe just before Karen Reed, supposedly for about 6 months, and Ashley Brady Sanchez, Bella's mom, was said to have a fling with John before she reconciled with her husband. Anonymous lawyer then chose to concoct the following. While it appears by all accounts that John and Karen had been getting along well during their time at McCarthy's and the Waterfall, there is overwhelming evidence that their relationship was in a rocky state. Rocky state, it was hanging on by a thread, if that. It had hit a rocky state way back, going all the way back to April 2021 when they went to Florida. They took a trip to Florida. They were having fights. So just a month earlier, they had gotten into a blowout fight in front of friends and relatives during a trip to Aruba. A fight that was triggered by Karen's almost surely mistaken. Where is he or she getting this from, that Karen was mistaken? That it was a mistake, that she thought she saw something, but she didn't. By Karen's almost surely mistaken belief that John had hooked up with a family friend during the trip. The fallout from that incident had created a major rift in their relationship, as evidenced by very angry text exchanges between the two of them earlier that same day. So there is evidence dating back to their Florida trip in April 2021, showing that John O'Keefe and Karen's relationship was in a rocky state. John's nephew testified in 2024 that there had been a lot of disagreements and arguments between the couple, including during the Florida trip. By January 2022, John and Karen's relationship was barely hanging on by a thread and was practically over, as confirmed by John's niece and nephew during their powerful evidence. Anonymous lawyers also dishonest when they state, while it appears by all accounts that John and Karen had been getting along well during their time at McCarthy's, there's also evidence that Karen was behaving aggressively towards John and McCarthy's. I've showed you that clip, along with the evidence from Michael Camerano that John was annoyed with Karen because Karen had not asked John to fix her plumbing and had said that she had a plumber over in the evening hours of a Friday night. Okay, so that John was annoyed with Karen about her Richie the Mansfield plumber tale. The author goes on to falsely state just a month earlier they had gotten into a blowout fight in front of friends and relatives during a trip to Aruba. In reality, on New Year's Eve 2021, at around 9:45-ish, Karen Reed told Marietta Sullivan to go F yourself in the lobby of their hotel, and there's no evidence any friends or friends or relatives witnessed this abuse. So let's take a look at Marietta Sullivan's testimony. So this is
to the right. You indicated that you were familiar or aware of where Mr. O'Keefe was and where the children were. Is that correct?
I know they were on the first floor. I'm not 100% positive as to where exactly their rooms were.
Okay. And if you know, did you know whether or not that Mr. O'Keefe was staying in the same room as Patrick and Kaylee at that point?
I didn't know that if they were staying in the same room or not, no.
So you point him in that direction, and what happened?
So I pointed in that direction. He walked off. I continued out to the pool bar when I heard very loudly his name screamed across the lobby, very angrily, and it made me stop in my tracks.
And when you stop in your tracks, what happened?
I started to turn around to come back in. So once you go out to the pool bar, you kind of go around a corner and you go out of view. So I turned around to go back in. As I'm going back in, I hear someone yell, "Who the f is that?" And as I come around the corner, I see Mr. O'Keefe walking toward a woman. And he said, excuse me. He said, "Calm down, that's Laura's little sister."
And what happened then?
When I came back around the corner, I said, after Mr. O'Keefe said, "Calm down, that's Laura's little sister," I said, "Hi, nice to meet you." That's when Miss Reed's head snapped up, and she very loudly told me to go with myself across the lobby. And I said, "Yeah, you too," and walked away.
And just to be clear, when you say Miss Reed, this is someone that you became familiar with as the trip went along?
This was my first interaction with her. I had never been fully introduced to her at all. I just had seen her sitting by the side of the pool when I had been talking to Johnny earlier in the day.
So I'm familiar with this technique. My friend married a woman who did this to all of his friends. Basically, created a scene or said something, did something to them that was really aggressive, hostile, and made my friends' friends just disconnect from him. So it's a way to just keep everyone at, far away from the person that you're trying to control. I mean, isolate them. So being a psychopath, Karen Reed knew right where to go. So Marietta's feelings towards Karen Reed were really negative after this. And she's not going to be, running to hang out with them both.
And the person you know to be Miss Reed's, do you see her in the courtroom today?
I do.
Could you just describe as to where she's seated or an article of clothing that she's wearing?
Sure, she's in a black.
So does anyone really believe in my audience that Karen Reed mistakenly thought that she saw them kiss? She just made up something to create discord and to keep John closer to her and keep everyone else away. I mean, this goes in a pattern of DV. I mean, so much in this case is just a pattern of DV. And the Commonwealth, by not going with the true narrative of this case, put themselves at a huge disadvantage. You can't fight an innocence fraud campaign with lies. You only can fight it with the truth. And the truth in detailed minutia. It's not good enough to say, oh, she had this many drinks or that many drinks. Well, she had a lot. She had a lot. It's true. She had a lot. Does it matter that she had 11 drinks or 7 to 9? Yes, ultimately. Where she had them, how she had them, because once you start fabricating things or glossing over things, that's what innocence fraud campaigns do. They gloss over things. They paint things in broad strokes. And this is what made Adam Lally more effective than Hank Brennan, who's a seasoned defense attorney, is that Adam Lally brought out so many witnesses, so much evidence, and tried this case with all the minutiae and all the details that he could. The minutia is really important. All those details are really important. When you have the power of the state behind you, you have to be totally truthful. And you can't make giant leaps like Bella's mom's house. There's just no evidence that was broadcast in the car, or that Karen Reed was upset by Bella's mom. And yet we heard nothing about Richie the plumber, which they argued over text message for over an hour. I think it's an hour and 4 minutes that night. Back and forth about the plumber. And then when we know that John O'Keefe was upset about that, what would be the first thing after having that long exchange about the plumber when Karen Reed comes into the bar? Wouldn't the first thing John O'Keefe asked was, how'd you get on with the plumber? We don't know when Karen Reed ever fixed her hot water issue. But we never heard anything about the Richie the plumber tale, aside from Michael Camerano's short mention. There was never a follow-up question. Were there text messages to a Richie the plumber on Karen's phone? Because the police never followed up. We still don't know whether those text messages exist. Did Karen Reed really reach out to a plumber? Did she really have a plumber over at her house? Could be. Did Karen Reed make it up? Could be. Did Karen Reed use a real person and make up a fake story? Could be. Did Karen Reed make up a fake person and a fake story? Could be. Did Karen Reed call a real person to fix her plumbing? And it really happened. And he was going to Home Depot and he'll be back mañana. I mean, there's so many variations on this Richie the Plumber story that could be true. We just don't know. He could have really come over and Karen Reed could have made up the he's coming back mañana, he's gone to Home Depot story. We don't know. We don't know. And it's certainly something that Karen Reed, and this is something that you need to look at in innocence fraud narratives, what significant evidence they aren't talking about. Why did Karen Reed hide, if it was such a honest fixing of her hot water, why did Karen Reed hide it? When have you ever heard in all of Karen Reed's interviews her talk about Richie the Plumber? Never. I'll tell you when. Never. I'm just shocked that anyone who's lived on planet Earth can believe this Bella's mom story. Just the sheer mention of Bella's mom is a motive for murder? Really? To me, it seems like, you know, I would believe it more if they said, you know, I don't know, John O'Keefe brought up some superstition. I don't know, Karen Reed. I mean, it's just so off the wall ridiculous to me. I'm shocked that anyone believes it. But apparently people on this side really believe, and this is the problem, because when the state says it, they have the power of the state behind them. Oh, it's Bella's mom. The state went with this nonsense narrative about jealousy.
Black and white, checkered blazer, just 2 people in from you.
Does that record reflect identification identified witness?
Yes.
Thank you. As far as Ms. Reed was concerned, what, if anything, did you observe as far as the defendants beyond the yelling? What, if anything, did you observe as far as her demeanor or how she was acting at the time that this interaction was going on?
She was just very loud.
But where's the evidence of that she was jealous of Bella's mom? Where's the evidence that she's jealous of anyone? She said she didn't love him. How can you be jealous of someone that you don't love? They were just dating. That's what she says.
She very, energetically screamed for me to go for myself. She was waving her hands. Johnny was trying to calm her down. And after I said, yeah, you too, I went out to the pool bar, so I didn't see much after that.
And could you hear anything as far as when you're walking out to the pool bar, as far as any other conversation between the defendant and Ms. Rosie?
Not after that first time, no.
You go back to you go out to the pool bar, and who, if anyone, did you talk to?
I went straight.
I mean, Kath, I think gets it. I mean, she says it really seems very off to be jealous of your boyfriend's children. I think the children, she says, the children made things toxic. She didn't want to be around them. She wanted to limit the time with the children. I mean, I think what they fought about very much, I mean, she says it's over the breakfast. I don't know about that breakfast story. But especially Kaylee was a constant source. She got along better with Patrick. So I think that John O'Keefe's niece was a constant source of conflict between Karen Reed and John. And she tried her best. They talk about in their testimony periods where she wouldn't look at them, talk to them. She ran hot and cold. She gave them the silent treatment. She would get very angry very quickly over little things. To say that she was like a mother figure to these kids and she cared for them, I mean, is not supported by the evidence. She's texting John like, these kids make things toxic. Want to limit time with them. And John was frustrated with the bad guy role. She was undermining his parenting by doing grandiose gestures, like giving very expensive sweater as a gift to Kaylee for Christmas, you know, way over the top. I mean, and this is a way that Karen Reed, you can see from the Aruba trip, after this happened, Karen Reed, you know, insisted on paying for dinner.
Straight up to my older sister, Laura, who was out to dinner with the couple the night before. And I said,
I'll allow this part.
I went up to her and I looked at her and I said, John O'Keefe's girlfriend. And she looked at me and said, Karen. And I said, yeah, you guys like her? She said, yeah, she's okay. And I said, well, she sucks.
I need to make that into a short. Well, she sucks. I just love the way she says it. I always get a kick out of it. Well, she sucks. The psychopathic murderer sucks. The pathological liar, Karen Reed, she sucks. No kidding, Marietta. No kidding. Tell me some more. All right, back to this vlog. We're near the end. And what anonymous lawyer omits from their tale is what happened between John O'Keefe and Karen Reed over Christmas Eve day of 2021, just 5 days before they flew out to Aruba, which was said to involve John's mother and a steak dinner that Karen Reed was cooking. I mean, I'll go more into what happened on Christmas, but Karen Reed spent Christmas, that Christmas 2021, alone in Mansfield, and how the fallout from Christmas impacted on their Aruba trip and throughout January of 2022. And the authors concocted claims of what happened in Aruba had created a major rift in their relationship, as evidenced by the very angry text exchanges between the two of them earlier that same day, is absurd. There was zero evidence in any text exchange from January 28th regarding Karen Reed's concocted Aruba kissing tale or of her gaslighting triangulation, which ensued. But what there was evidence of from less than 3.5 hours before Karen Reed chose to reverse into John with her car was of another potential fabricated tale, and yet more gaslighting by Karen Reed, and that involves her Richie the plumber tale. So why does an anonymous lawyer want to talk about Richie the plumber? So let's get into this blog. So they do a good job of talking about the reversal. So I just wanted to highlight one good point, I thought. From the second, Karen depressed the gas pedal while in reverse, this time pushing the pedal down to 70% of maximum. It's 74.5% maximum. The SUV rapidly accelerated, reaching a speed of over 24 miles per hour in less than 5 seconds. At that point, at approximately 12:32:12, the text stream data cuts off. It only captures 5 seconds worth of data following a trigger. At the point of data cutoff, the SUV was barreling in reverse at an astounding 24 miles per hour and still accelerating. 4 seconds later, at 12:32:16, John's phone recorded its last movement. So there's a clear correlation, and this is between Karen Reed's reversal and John O'Keefe's last movement. To be clear, there's no universe in which that is just a coincidence. Karen hit John with her SUV, resulting in his death. The only open questions relate to precise mechanics of the collision and Karen's frame of mind at the time. I think there's a lot more questions in this case than Karen's frame of mind, including John O'Keefe's frame of mind. And I mean, we know that he wanted to break up with Karen Reed. He was telling her, according to the children's testimony, meaning the niece and nephew, Kaylee and Patrick's testimony, that I believe this is Kaylee's testimony I'm referring to, that John O'Keefe was telling Karen Reed that the relationship had run its course and that it had become toxic. A word Karen Reed would later use to describe the relationship of the four of them, meaning John O'Keefe, Karen Reed, Kaylee, and Patrick. So there's too many unknowable variables with the trajectory, but he makes the point that when you reverse, you just ease off. You don't usually push the gas to reverse. You usually just let the car go. But Karen Reed is nearly flooring it. 74.5. Let's just call it 70. Let's round up from 74.5 to 75%. I mean, that's almost all the way down to the floor. You're 25% away from flooring it all the way down. So what I'm more interested in exploring here is Karen's frame of mind. What was going through her head as she reversed the SUV? Did she see John or know he was there? After the impact, did she know or suspect that she hit him? As I noted previously, there is very good reason to believe that John and Karen were fighting as they sat in the SUV outside of 34 Fairview for over 7 minutes. They spent the entire afternoon fighting via text message. So, to call that fighting just over text message, that is pretty reductive. I mean, Karen Reed is consistently calling, text messaging, constantly, and asking for John O'Keefe and demanding his attention, time, reactions. And John O'Keefe is constantly telling her to back off and leave him alone. And Karen Reed isn't listening and isn't respecting his boundaries, not even a little bit. Please, stop calling. I'm with my dad. I can't do it. I'm with the kids. I can't do it. I mean, it shows such abuse, those text messages, that I wouldn't call fighting a good summation. It's just abuse throughout the entire day from Karen Reed in making sure, in keeping power and control over John O'Keefe. Their relationship had been in an incredibly fragile state since at least, and they write at least, the Aruba trip, but it had gone on much longer than the Aruba trip. And they both had quite a bit to drink that night. And there's some circumstantial evidence that Karen was drinking on an empty stomach and was hungry. So he can't know that. We don't have any information is in the public domain as to when Karen Reed ate or what she ate or if she was hungry. We do know, and this is what anonymous lawyer is taking a little kernel of truth and then just imagining things in their head, that she kept pushing the idea of going to Chris Albert's pizza shop afterwards instead of the Albert house. Who knows what she wanted to do there? Who knows if she would have even eaten pizza had she gone to the pizza shop? We don't know what her motivation is. Karen also knew that waiting for them at the house was Brian Higgins. Here's another myth. A friend of John's who she'd kissed and who she'd been trying to strike up an affair with just a week prior. She managed to avoid him at the bar where there were a lot more people, but that would be a harder task with a smaller group at the house, most of whom she didn't even know. How do we know that Karen Reed didn't want to see Brian Higgins? We don't know that. She certainly was trying trying her best to engage him and planted a romantic kiss on him. I love the way that he testified, not the way that you kiss a friend. So who would say, I mean, you could make the argument that she wanted to see Brian Higgins, but something else made her not go in. You just don't know. So it's fair to assume that Karen wasn't particularly enthusiastic about going to the Albert House. Don't know that. We do know that they fought, and we don't know about what. Could be about the plumber, could be about something else. And may well have been trying to talk John out of it. It's hard to imagine what, other than fighting or arguing, would possibly explain what they stayed in the SUV for over or they were breaking up, or John was like, I've had enough. I'm going in. Are you coming? He takes her drink, expecting her to come, and instead she floors it, and as he's walking, she floors it in reverse and clips him, and then leaves him to die. We also know that when John finally did exit the SUV, he took Karen's vodka soda with him, a fact that Karen confirmed in her media interviews. It's easy to imagine how John taking her drink could have sent Karen spiraling. I don't know. I'm having a problem with that word today. Anyway, going crazy, going down, losing it. Especially if the intended message in doing so, either verbalized or implicit, was that she was acting drunk and crazy. No one said she was acting drunk and crazy. Where are you getting that from? No one said she acted drunk and crazy that night. And she certainly acted panicked, running around. But that was part of her performance to discovering John. She had her audience. Remember, Karen Reed wanted to be an actress when she was young and needed to be cut off for the night. I don't think it was, I've heard this before. I've heard this from my audience, that the fact that John took Karen Reed's vodka would have enraged her. Really? When she's like a 4.5 minute drive, she invades his home. And you think there's not alcohol there, or you think she can't get her hands on alcohol somewhere else? In her own home in Mansfield, you don't think there's alcohol there? You think that drink is her last shot at drinking for the night? I find that hard to believe. Based on the texting data, which records both 5 seconds there. Okay. We don't know when the vehicle, okay. Based on the texting data, which records data both 5 seconds before and 5 seconds after the relevant trigger event, we know that approximately 12:32:02 synchronized time, Karen was driving the SUV forward at the speed of 13 miles per hour. We don't know when the vehicle first started to move, but it was likely just a few seconds earlier, given that John's first recorded movement was 6 seconds earlier at 12:31:56. This suggests that Karen had been driving away right after John began moving and had likely covered some distance in order to have reached 13 miles per hour by the time the text stream data began recording. From that point, Karen drove an additional 34 feet forward before coming to a stop. By this point, she easily could have been over 100 feet up the street from the flagpole area where John had exited the vehicle. Now remember that Karen entered Fairview Road from the Cedar Crest side and had not been the one navigating. While the shortest way back to John's house was to continue up Fairview to Chapman Street, Karen had never been to Fairview Road before and likely didn't know that. I've long suspected that Karen came to a stop after initially driving forward because she realized they had entered Fairview from the other direction and that she needed to turn around and to retrace their route to Cedar Crest. The simplest explanation for what happened next, and I suspect the correct one, is not that Karen intentionally gunned her SUV in reverse, aiming for John. So what he or she is saying here is that it's just a big coincidence that they were arguing, that Karen Reed was in a rage, and that in her rage, she accidentally clipped John O'Keefe, thought she clipped something, but didn't check it out. And then it like started to dawn on her. I mean, this is crazy. Isn't the more likely explanation from living on planet Earth, from knowing human beings and not aliens, that if you're angry, upset, have a fight, and you're Karen Reed, who there are rumors around Karen Reed that she put a knife to her ex-boyfriend, that she burned her another ex-boyfriend's car, set it on fire when angry, that Karen Reed perhaps got violent, like so many, the end of all DV relationships, you're not going to leave me. I'm the one in control. And Karen Reed herself says the point was to teach John a lesson, and to think that this wasn't a planned crime is a mistake. But anonymous lawyer is going into just a very, just strangely, the relationship being in the state it's in, Karen Reed being in a rage, that she just accidentally hurt the person that she was most angry with. What a crazy accident. Is this wild? And the crazy thing is I'm going to have about people in my comment section saying I'm wrong, and it's Bella's mom all the way, and Karen Reed just accidentally hit him. Based on what? Based on what? And that by the time Karen had stopped the SUV, she was likely 100 feet. Okay. I think the more likely explanation for the sudden reversal is that Karen was angry, drunk, and frustrated, and she realized that she was headed in the wrong direction. Oh, she was just angry because she was headed in the wrong direction. It was directions that made her accidentally reverse into him. Come on. So she threw the SUV into reverse in the intent of completing another 3-point turn. So we don't know how good Karen Reed is with directions. Karen Reed may be a direction whiz. And when she goes to a place, she seems to have a really good memory. She never forgets how to go back. She was very familiar with this area. She may not have known how to go to 34 Fairview, but she knew this area. As you remember, just 8 minutes earlier, Karen performed a 3-point turn that also involved putting her foot unnecessarily on the gas pedal. So as unusual as that is, we know for a fact that it's something she would do in the process of turning around, at least in the state of mind she was in that night. I suspect that what happened here too, realizing she needed to turn around, she attempted to perform the same maneuver. What? This is just should be called From the Imagination of Anonymous Lawyer. And or maybe it should be called Trust Me, I'm a Lawyer. I'm not really making things up, because you are making things up. I suspect that what's happening here too, realizing she needed to turn around, she attempted to perform the same maneuver, except this time she was on a slight downslope, and in her angry and intoxicated state, she pressed the pedal down even harder than before. I mean, this is does Anonymous Lawyer write romance novels on the side? She pressed the pedal down harder before, or melodramas. Before she knew it, she was going incredibly fast, her reflexes and judgment impaired. She traveled quite a distance before eventually braking and coming to a stop. So here's what, this side doesn't like to talk about very often. And it's a question when I talked to John O'Keefe's, one of his oldest friends, Brendan Kane. It was one of the first things I wanted to know, and I think everyone thinks about, which was that John O'Keefe was a police officer, and he let Karen Reed drive him knowing that she had. And I said, why did John O'Keefe let Karen Reed drive him around drunk? And he said, because she was a pro. She's a professional drinker and a professional drunk driver. So I don't know how much her reflexes and judgment were impaired. But she certainly, you can see the footage of her driving. I don't think anybody would pull her over for drunk driving the way she was driving. During this time, John's phone data indicates that he was looking at his phone and walking. And though we don't know in which direction, given that his body was found close to the area where he left the vehicle, it's reasonable to infer that he walked in one direction first and then walked back to the flagpole area. It's possible that he initially began following Karen's SUV before giving up and turning around. I don't think we can know any of this. Alternatively, he could have started to walk towards the house and then turned around and walked back towards the flagpole area. I mean, he could have been, dancing, for all we know, towards the house. I mean, we just can't know that. The only one that knows that is Karen Psychopath Reed, and she's not talking. We know that he was likely, or she's not trustworthy when she does talk. We know that she's a pathological liar. We know that he was likely facing away from the vehicle when he was struck, allowing his right elbow to collide with the SUV's right taillight, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he was walking away from the vehicle at the moment of impact. He could, for example, have been walking towards the vehicle and then spun around at the last second, trying to avoid getting hit. Right. Either way, John was likely standing in a dark part of the street when he was hit. Given the distance Karen had to cover to get to him and the speed she was traveling in reverse, I'm skeptical that she could see John or even knew he was still there. But then anonymous lawyer refers to Karen Reed's camera that she had in her car, where she could see everything. He thinks she was just trying to reverse, almost flooring it at up to speeds of 24 miles an hour. That first turn wasn't done like that. Yeah, she hit the gas, but not like that. Why do people make this stuff up? Is the truth too harsh for them? Why do people make up fairy tales like this? Is that do we want to normalize murderers? Do we want to put our face on a murderer? And our personality is the only way that we can understand a personality. We're talking about Karen Reed, is a psychopath who doesn't have a full range of emotions, who has no conscience. We saw it. I mean, what's so surprising is that anonymous lawyer watched both trials and watched Karen Reed's behavior and thinks Karen Reed smirking at the autopsy photos and the way that she acted in court, the blank stare, and being the happiest murder defendant, blank stare at just some of the worst evidence you've ever heard. He thinks that's a fully feeling person who accidentally hit her police officer boyfriend. First and most obviously, no matter how drunk you are, when you hit something hard enough to break your taillight, it would be hard not to feel and hear the impact. That's especially true when you're driving an upscale SUV with collision sensors. She told her father, anonymous lawyer, that she felt she hit something. That's an experiential memory. You feel it go through the whole car. Just going over a speed bump at slow speed, you feel the whole car move up and down. And driving at 24 miles an hour in reverse, and she hits something, smashes her taillight to smithereens, and she doesn't know what she hit and doesn't check it out. Knowing that John just got out of her car and that hitting John O'Keefe is one of the things that she may have hit. I'm just going into anonymous lawyer's imagination now. She aimed to hit him. She meant to hit him. She meant to teach him a lesson. This is based on Karen's subsequent arrival at John's house at 12:36:39. We know that she left the scene almost immediately after the collision. I suspect that she went back the way she came towards Cedar Crest, meaning it's unlikely that she drove past the area where John was lying incapacitated and visually confirmed what she'd done. We can't know that. She said he didn't look mortally wounded, so she saw something. And they said, was it that night? She said, that night when I dropped off, he didn't look mortally wounded. She confirmed it was that night. Rather, I suspect that as she sped away from the scene, her mind was racing as she tried to process what she just felt and heard. But unlike other people who damage their car, she never stops, checks it out, or checks what she hit. She almost surely knew she collided with something, but perhaps initially thought or hoped that it was something more innocuous, like a street light or a fire hydrant or a garbage can. Why didn't she get out and check it out if it was innocuous, or she even thought it was innocuous? Why would she go to John O'Keefe's house after that and not check it out? Or even just the curb. But at some point, I mean, what is this murderer apologist nonsense? Probably even before she reached Denham Street, the thought crossed her mind that it might have been John. But as the mind is prone to do, she likely minimized this possibility at first. No, she didn't minimize the possibility. The next morning, she told everyone that John was dead, that he was hit by a plow, maybe. She knew a large vehicle struck him. So, how did Karen Reed know exactly what she had hit, where John O'Keefe was, and that it was so serious? No, everybody else said, "Oh, he's sleeping at somebody's couch," and why? And if Karen Reed didn't know and thought there was a possibility that she didn't hit John O'Keefe, why didn't she look for John O'Keefe in John O'Keefe's home? Think that maybe he got dropped off and came in that night. Maybe slept somewhere else. They weren't of the habit sleeping in the same bed. After all, why would he have still been standing in that dark area? And even if he had been, the impact hadn't been particularly violent or loud. How do you know that? You can't know that. What's the worst that could have happened, she likely thought. I mean, now he's just inventing dialogue in the head of psychopathic murderer Karen Reed. What's the worst that could have happened, she likely thought. Maybe she just bumped him and now he'd be even more angry with her. But Karen's concern was real enough that it prompted her to call John at 12:35. No, now she's covering up. Even Hank Brennan knew that this is nonsense and said immediately she started covering up her crime. Because she says, nobody knows where you are. She knew where John O'Keefe was. So if Karen Reed really doesn't know, why is she saying nobody knows where you are? Or why is she saying that I'm with your 2 kids? She had to know that Patrick wasn't there, that he was at a friend's house. And then she says she's at Mansfield. So why is she lying and saying she texts John O'Keefe that she's at her house instead of the fact that she broke into his house and invaded his home? She's saying that she's at her own house. All this is to cover up what she knew she did, and to make herself seem out like she's not in the know, that she doesn't know where he is. She's looking for him. She's pretending she's desperately trying to find him, and that that no one knows where he is. She knows exactly where he is. She called him out at 12:37, this time leaving her first angry voicemail screaming, "John, I effing hate you." So this is Sunny Spirits video, but I just wanted to play it just for the calls. These are Karen Reed's calls. Take a listen.
Karen Reed's defense team claims she's being framed.
I'm going home. See you later.
John, I'm here with your fucking kids. Nobody knows what the fuck you want, you fucking pervert.
Okay, So nobody knows where, everybody knew where, Karen Reed knew where he was, right where she dropped him off. And then she says she watched him go into the house. So why would she say she didn't know where he was? So also Karen Reed supporters say, well, why would she, after she killed or reversed into him or clipped him, would she leave angry voicemails? Well, crimes like this, like murder, are not logical. They're not rational. She had to continue to express her anger that she expressed by reversing into him. She's still in that angry, vindictive, hyped up state, but she also now has to cover up her crime. And this is how it went.
Bennett text John O'Keefe, your kids are
cucking alone. When she was, well, both her kids aren't, but it's Kaylee. And she was with Kaylee at that time. So why is she saying they're alone? Patrick's at a friend's house. Kaylee is at John's house. And now Karen is with her.
cucking alone. I'm back in Mansfield. The kids are home.
The kids are home. I'm back in Mansfield. The kids are home alone. Why is she lying about where she is? If not to create a false narrative to cover up her crime. Why is this? Why are... I mean, there's just no logical, rational reason to commit a crime like this. But anonymous lawyer is doing their best to normalize this very brutal, very disturbing murder. He, of course, didn't answer. She called him again 30 seconds later, and then again 30 seconds after that, again and again, a total of 7 times during a 4-minute drive to John's house. When she got to John's house, before she got out of the SUV, she called him again at 12:37:08, this time leaving her first angry voicemail screaming, "John, I effing hate you." I suspect that her fear that she hit him, I mean, this is fantasy land. I suspect that her fear that she hit him had grown with every unanswered call. What evidence are you basing that on? But that she still thought that even if she hit him, the reason he wasn't answering her calls was because he was pissed at her, not because he was lying incapacitated in the yard. Yet, strangely, Karen Reed told everyone, before anyone knew John O'Keefe was dead, Karen Reed, the psychic, knew that something terrible had happened to him. Over the next 4 minutes, she called him 5 more times as she sat outside John's house with her SUV running. I suspect that during this time, she examined her vehicle and noticed the broken taillight. Could be, but you suspect that, but there's no proof that she did that, confirming that she had in fact hit something. She also likely spent those, I don't know how likely it is. We don't have any evidence of what she did. She also likely spent those minutes debating whether she should go back. There's no proof of any of this. But it was snowing pretty hard by this point, so she didn't go check out what she had hit because it was snowing. But she couldn't just stop at the time and check it out, which is what the normal thing to do is when you hit anything, is to stop and check it out. Has anyone else just rammed their car into something and not looked and fled the scene? And she may not find her way back to the Albert house. I mean, a person that cares about another person, when they know that John O'Keefe is, let's just say for argument's sake, right, that he's among the possibilities of things that she could hit, you get out right away and check it out to make sure that if you did hit him, that he might need to get help. I mean, this anonymous lawyer is normalizing the fact that Karen Reed never called 911, never got help for John O'Keefe, ever. And when she did find him, she jumped on his corpse, lifted up her shirt, lifted up his shirt, and rubbed on him to, quote unquote, warm him up. I mean, come on. No fear of a dead body at all? Remember that she was quite drunk. Again, there's no proof that she was quite drunk. She was legally over the limit for sure. But there's no testimony that supports the fact that she was so drunk or so lost or any of this. Hadn't been the one who navigated there in the first place and likely didn't even know the address. So she eventually decided to stay put. But anonymous lawyer never says why she didn't go to her house, why she went to John O'Keefe's house, pulling the SUV into John's garage and turning off the engine at 12:42. The reason she also went into John O'Keefe's house is because she wanted to make it look like that they were still together and that things were still good between them and that she was just waiting for him at his house. I mean, all this is a cover-up. I mean, that's based on the evidence, all of the evidence. At 12:55, she again tried to reach John, this time texting him, "I'm going home and see you later." When he didn't respond, she began calling him at 12:58 and 1:14. She called him 10 more times, texted him twice, and left 2 more angry voicemails. And then he said she went to sleep, which we don't know either. We know that her phone goes, silent. There's no activity on her phone for a while, but she could have been using her laptop, which was never taken by the police. When she woke up after 4:30 and saw that John had not come home or responded to any of her calls or texts, her first call was not to John, but again to her mother. She then called John several more times before trying her mother again 4 more minutes later. Eventually, Karen woke up John's niece, Kaylee, and then walked out of the room, shook her, and walked out of the room, and then asked her to call John. When he didn't answer, Karen realized that she could re-victimize Kaylee and re-traumatize her, knowing that Kaylee was a highly traumatized child, that she could re-traumatize her. So she took full advantage of that and told Kaylee that now the third guardian that she had, something tragic and terrible had happened to them, and that Karen redid it to him. I mean, I think that what's really gone unexplored is Karen's resentment, jealousy towards Kaylee. I mean, the time that Kaylee was set to testify in the second trial was the only day that Karen Reed didn't show up. Apparently was just too worn out and court had to be canceled. What a power play that was. Needless to say, none of this behavior is consistent with the story Karen rolled out a year and a half later and reiterated in her recent legal complaint. You know what's not, but yet you use Karen Reed's own words as proof that something happened, like that Karen Reed had some kind of memory loss. When you hear her admitting, anonymous lawyer, and reiterated in a recent legal complaint that she saw John enter the Albert house after he got out of her SUV. To the contrary, it is the behavior of someone who was worried that she hit John. Where are you getting this from with her SUV? How about it's the behavior of someone who knew that she hit John with her SUV and whose desire to cover up her crime escalated into a full-blown acting job of acting panicked and pretending not to know where John O'Keefe was and finding marks. Like, first she wanted the Cameranos, Catherine and Michael Camerano, to be her first marks, but they weren't available. She called them first. When they weren't available, then she called Carrie Roberts and Jen McCabe to be her marks and be her audience. It is the behavior of someone who knew that she hit John with her SUV and whose desire to cover up her crime escalated into a full-blown acting job. That's what I say. That's how I change your sentence, anonymous lawyer. I mean, these lawyers know that they can brainwash just being wordsmiths and using language and using things from just their imagination. This is a fantasy narrative, not based on any of the evidence or very little of it. And a lot of what's in what anonymous lawyer just makes up out of nothing. Ask yourself why would Karen call John this obsessively, starting just 1 minute after she left him, if she knew he was inside the house? Why did she call him obsessively? To cover up her crime, to pretend like she wasn't in the know. And why would she call her elderly mother multiple times in the middle of the night? To help her get away with her crime, if she knew John had gone inside the house. And why would she wake up at 4:30? We didn't know she woke up, but she started in a full-blown panic. Didn't she, if she knew that John had entered the house and was in all likelihood passed out on a couch somewhere? And that's before we even get to Karen's behavior the rest of that morning. Shortly after talking to Jen McCabe, Karen called John's friend Carrie Roberts, but he or she leaves out Karen Reed calling the Cameranos. Wonder why. She told Carrie that John was dead, that he may have been hit by a plow. This prompted Carrie to call the police and local hospital. So we've already been through this. Anyway, this is just... by the time of... Okay, I'll just read the last paragraph here. Concluding, finally. By the time of Karen's second criminal trial, she and her legal team had to have known that she did it. Of course they knew. Everyone knows. Karen Reed knew she did it. Oh, wait. Oh, here, this is the craziest thing. No, wait, sorry. I lie. I have to go back. To be fair, I think it's also possible that in the early 2023 timeframe, in the fog of earlier discovery and before the 227 Google search had been thoroughly debunked, that Karen genuinely came to believe that she had been set up. No, Karen Reed immediately got a private detective when she said she was crying on her parents' couch for days. She was off with her private detective covering her tracks, retracing her steps. She knew what she did. Karen Reed genuinely came to believe that she had been set up. No, Karen Reed created, she knows it's a innocence fraud, lying, fabricated, phony narrative to fool the gullible public. And I mean, just like you created this narrative to fool a gullible public. No one wants to believe they're a murderer. No one wants to believe they're a murderer. Karen Reed had no reaction to be called a cop killer. It's not that deep with her. She doesn't care. She did it because she wanted to, and she made sure she got away with it. At that point, there were some genuinely puzzling questions posed by the evidence. The apparent 227 Google search seemed very suspicious. Are you saying that Karen Reed didn't know that she asked Jen McCabe multiple times to search how long to die in the cold? You think Karen Reed didn't remember that? And there was not any text stream data or detailed data from John's phone from which to create a conclusive timeline? Karen Reed was getting all the evidence from the Commonwealth. I think that proves a pretty conclusive timeline. There was potentially a small window of time for something else to have happened. But that window has long since closed. By the time of Karen's second criminal trial, she and her legal team had to have known that she did it. Of course, she knew that she did. She knows that she did it. That's why she was looking to cover it up. They didn't even bother to meaningfully contest most of the key evidence. The text stream data, the data from John's phone, the digital evidence, conclusively establishing that the Google search didn't happen at 227. The expert testing proving that she couldn't possibly have damaged her taillight when she bumped John's car in the driveway the next morning. Well, why do you think she bumped her car in John's driveway the next morning? To create a story as to how she smashed to smithereens her taillight. She knew what she was doing. Right on the Ring camera. They didn't even bother to offer a coherent alternative story. Instead, they focused all of their efforts on putting an impossible burden on the prosecution. You know, this is true. On convincing the jury that if the prosecution couldn't conclusively reconstruct the precise mechanics of the collision, that an acquittal was required. You know, they moved the burden, the prosecution's burden, to not just beyond a reasonable doubt, but beyond any doubt. If you have any doubt at all, and Hank Brennan, and I thought it was a mistake at the time, didn't argue passionately enough and correct all of Karen Reed's criminal lawyer's lies that, you know, this has to be, you have to be so certain to the highest degree of, I mean, it's beyond he's making it sound like it's beyond any doubt. And the jury bought it, but you don't have to, right? And the innocence fraudster jury bought it, but you don't have to. I agree with that. You don't have to buy it. So that is this blog. I'm just amazed that anyone believes this narrative that she didn't know what she did. I mean, there's just so much evidence that it's a cover-up. I mean, even Hank Brennan argued that it was a cover-up immediately. And Turtle Boy, before I go, I'll just cover one more thing. Turtle Boy is worried that he's going to be arrested over Christmas, or, you know, he's going to be incarcerated for Christmas. And while people are claiming that he's trying to put his ex-girlfriend, Meredith O'Neill, in prison, apparently may have backfired his trip to the police. Take a listen to some of this before I go.
But man, they are trying big time. And you know, it's almost Christmas. 2 weeks from today is Christmas. And
so Aidan Carney is very good at exploiting his audience's sentimental feelings. So he knows that Christmas is a sentimental holiday, that people don't like the idea of people being locked up or alone like Karen Reed was on Christmas Day, 2021. So he's going to exploit that. He also likes to exploit his children and his position as a father to gain sympathy from his audience.
And yeah, they are unfortunately just really trying to put me in jail for Christmas. There's like a sustained attack right now, unfortunately, by people trying to do that. But, you know, it's just sad. You know, nobody should be away from their fucking kids on Christmas, you know?
Right. It's not that he doesn't want to be locked up. It's that he just doesn't want to be away from his kids and his family and the people that he loves, just exploiting these sentimental feelings.
And there's like things going on right now. It's like, I don't even want to talk about them, but it is anxiety inducing. And all I'm saying is like,
that's what it is. That's where the anxiety is coming from. He's losing control.
If you ever cared about me, just please don't try to send me to jail on Christmas. That's all I ask.
Okay. That's all he asks. He has one small ask: to not be in jail. He just wants to be with his kids. Oh, at Christmas. He's asking for a Christmas miracle, right? Tammy says, help Wes with super chats. Thank you, Tammy and Giz. I hope you're good. Appreciate it. Hey, Tammy, thanks for the super sticker. Now, Tammy, Giz, and Wesley doing the heavy lifting with the super chats. I appreciate it. This is a listener-supported show. I appreciate your support, Tammy. Hope Gizzy's well. So we shall see how that goes. Oh, yeah. So we're going to keep an eye on the incredible downslide of Aiden Turtleboy Carney. I mean, this is, when he really had the public under his thumb for a long time, he had so much support. I wasn't convinced he was going to be convicted of anything. But now I think the chances of him being convicted of something are looking pretty good because the pre-Karen Reed innocence fraudsters are all divided and at war with each other. So, but, if they want to win the civil trial is going to be a challenge because you have Karen Reed just working always 2 steps ahead, working all the time on getting away with her crime civilly. And you don't have the same fight. We have a lot of quit on this side. How Karen Reed says she has no quit? We have a lot of quit on this side. And if people who are witnesses love John O'Keefe or cared about John O'Keefe or want to see the O'Keefe family receive justice, the best thing they can do is familiarize themselves with the evidence in detail, in minutia, the same way that Karen Reed, and study Karen Reed's behavior. The same way she's profiled you and studied your behavior. So, and make sure that your testimony is consistent because they will exploit all those inconsistencies. And if you're a witness who has text messages, emails, anything, communication with Karen Reed that's not in the public domain, put it in the public domain. Even if you find it slightly embarrassing, put it out there. Karen Reed already knows and is waiting to exploit it. I know the forensic room says that they have Kaylee's testimony, the transcripts from Kaylee's testimony. What are they doing? Put it in the public domain. Put as much evidence in the public domain as you can. It would be great if they used that Testify website to actually put up transcripts and actual evidence. I mean, I'm still waiting for a useful counter push to this innocence fraud narrative. So a great thing to do would be frequently asked questions, debunking Karen Reed's talking points with links to evidence or links to where people can find the evidence to debunk these talking points. So like if you're debunking the 227 search, you could link to the testimony of the 2 experts, Ian Whiffen and Jessica Hyde. If you have transcripts, put them out in the public domain. We just got and I don't know how the O'Keefes are going to get justice as long as these narratives that Karen Reed and John O'Keefe were just like Karen Reed's just like a unlucky drunk who accidentally hit him. I don't know how the O'Keefes are going to get any justice as long as that narrative continues to be popular. And that phony narrative continues to be pushed out by this side. It's certainly very helpful to Karen Reed, Anonymous Lawyers blog. I mean, it's just propping up Karen Reed. So that's what I have for today. Please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, share this episode. Links are in the description of this episode, ways you can support the channel. Guys, it's Christmas. Venmo. Buy me a coffee, Patreon, all great ways. Great night, everyone. I'll see you tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern.
I hit my boyfriend with my car. It wasn't an accident, but with lying lawyers I'll go far. Lying lawyers and witness harassment. I'll avoid prison. It was snowing. I pushed the pedal down, hit him hard. Now the legal system I clown. Innocence fraud campaign to save my skin. Making money, truth is my second victim. Carry, carry, gin, gin. Like John, you were my mark. My innocence fraud campaign is my biggest hit. Yeah. I hit my boyfriend with my car. It wasn't an accident, but with lying lawyers I'll go far. Lying lawyers and witness harassment. I'll avoid prison. It was snowing. I pushed the pedal down, hit him hard. Now the legal system I clown.